No. I want Szechuan sauce. Where's my Szechuan sauce?
Oh, I hate it. Oh.
I'm Kendall Rick! My beloved Dum Dum! I'm Kendall Rick!
Oh, God, no.
Rick! Rick! Rick!
Rick and Morty is an incredible show. The writing is smart and deep while also managing to be laugh-out-loud hilarious. Everything from the character development to the witty humor is great, and to top it off, it's just different. In the best way. There's entire episodes of this show where most of the script is just improv by the show's creators, pretending to be television shows from another planet. If that's not different, I don't know what is. Intelligent, unique, hysterical, charming, all words that would be used to describe Rick and Morty. So how does a show with this many awesome traits turn into something that people associate with cringe? The Urban Dictionary defines cringe as when someone acts/is so embarrassing or awkward, it makes you feel extremely ashamed and or embarrassed. You know what I mean. When you think of cringe, you think of this. Or maybe this. But something on the high quality level of Rick and Morty, what could be cringe about that? Well, it's not the quality of the show, that's abundantly clear. But Rick and Morty was undeniably the face of cringe culture for a good while. And it was all a snowball effect from 4 unfortunate circumstances. Season 3 episode of Rick and Morty, Pickle Rick, revolved around Rick Sanchez turning himself into a pickle. It was possibly the most anticipated episode of the entire series, due to Adult Swim promoting the heck out of it for a few weeks. It turned out to be a very good episode. It was funny, clever, action-packed, and random. Everything people love about Rick and Morty. But then Pickle Rick got, really popular. Possibly more popular than the show itself. It became a meme. And like most memes, it became overused and a played out joke that overstayed its welcome just a bit too long. Pickle Rick memes were beaten into the ground pretty quickly, to the point of not being even mildly funny anymore. But this isn't a big deal. These days memes get overused and cheesy in the first 2 days and then it's on to the next one. It's the internet culture we live in. But the Pickle Rick thing took on a life of its own. This was the first sign of Rick and Morty fanbase making people cringe, but it only got worse. Not too long after, a Reddit post from July began to go super viral. In the subreddit Cringe Anarchy, someone copy and pasted what was allegedly a comment from a Rick and Morty fan, and it was the cringiest comment of all time. The comment said, and I quote,
"To be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand Rick and Morty. The humor is extremely subtle and without a solid grasp of theoretical physics, most of the jokes will go over a typical viewer's head. There's also Rick's nihilistic outlook with his deathly low fans understand something in an intellectual capacity to appreciate the depths of these jokes, to realize that they're not just funny, they say something deep. Of course they wouldn't appreciate, for instance, the humor in Rick's accidental catchphrase, wubba lubba dub dub, which itself is a cryptic reference to adult-pated simpletons scratching their head in confusion as Dan Harmon's genius and wit unfolds itself on their television screens.
What fools! How I pity them.
Now to this day, it's unclear whether the comment was an actual fan or just somebody trolling, or ironically mocking Rick and Morty fans. But the internet took this and ran with it. If there's anything people hate, it's being told their intelligence level is too low to enjoy something. Mainly since 9 times out of 10, it's just not true. A similar thing happened with a rapper named J. Cole. J. Cole is an insanely talented rapper with some great music. Personally, one of my favorites, but a select few people from Cole's fanbase began pushing this narrative on Twitter that it takes a certain level of intelligence to really vibe with J. Cole's music, and it calls people to turn on J. Cole and his fanbase in droves. J. Cole himself has said it was embarrassing, especially since his music isn't exactly about the theory of relativity. And this happened with Rick and Morty due to this post. It became a copypasta which was posted all over the internet. The memes spiraled out of control and Rick and Morty's fanbase quickly became the laughingstock of the internet. But was this person genuinely posting their actual feelings? I don't think so. The part that leaves me to believe it was a troll was the final sentences.
And yes, by the way, I do have a Rick and Morty tattoo, and no, you cannot see it. It's for the ladies' eyes only. And even then, they have to demonstrate that they're within 5 IQ points of my own, preferably lower, beforehand.
This seemed to be an elaborate troll, but regardless, the internet took this as someone being genuine and the damage was done. The Rick and Morty fanbase was officially deemed toxic. Whether that post was real or not, only a month later in September 2017, a group of Rick and Morty fans managed to embarrass themselves even worse. For the third season of Rick and Morty, there was an effort for gender equality in the writers' room, and it was announced that Rick and Morty was hiring female writers. But despite the third season of Rick and Morty getting rave reviews from most, there was a minority of people who were not happy with the quality of season 3 and believed the show had dipped in quality. Which is fine, until they decided to blame the new women writers for their perceived downfall of Rick and Morty. But not only did they blame them, they harassed them on Twitter, threatened them, and even found and exposed their personal information online. All this because they didn't like a few episodes of a cartoon. Co-creator Dan Harmon was infuriated and wasted no time calling out his fans who were doing this, saying these knobs want to protect the content they think they own and somehow combine that with their need to be proud of something they have, which is often only their race or gender. It's offensive to me as someone who was born male and white that still works way harder than them, that there's some white male fan out there trying to further some creepy agenda by protecting my work. I've made no bones about the fact that I loathe these people. It effing sucks. The only thing I can say that is if you're lucky enough to make a show that is really good that people like, that means some bad people are going to like it too. And I'm speaking for myself. I don't want the show to have a political stance, but at the same time, individually, these harassers aren't politicians and don't represent politics. They represent some that I probably believed when I was 15. Long story short, even the show's co-creator was fed up with the BS. But 2017 wasn't done embarrassing the Rick and Morty fanbase just yet. There was one more big moment that would make people view Rick and Morty's fanbase as the worst fanbase in the world, and that would make Rick and Morty the poster child of cringe culture once and for all: the Szechuan sauce fiasco. The season 3 premiere of Rick and Morty featured Rick offhandedly mentioning how much he loves Szechuan sauce, a sauce McDonald's briefly had in the late 90s to promote the movie Mulan. It was a short-lived thing, and after it went away, it was pretty much completely forgotten about. But the writers of Rick and Morty remembered, specifically Justin Roiland, and included a gag where Rick declares his mission in life to find that Szechuan sauce. It was a funny joke, and a perfect example of the specific randomness of Rick and Morty's comedy. It was great, but just like we've seen with the gags from the show before, it took on a life of its own. Fans began petitioning for McDonald's to bring back the sauce and begging McDonald's to do so, and they did it. McDonald's brought back the Szechuan sauce for a limited time in October 2017. This was by far the biggest indicator of how truly huge Rick and Morty's fanbase had become. But the sauce was back, and it was a disaster. In McDonald's attempt to capitalize off the Rick and Morty hype, they didn't provide enough sauce for the amount of people that demanded it, and it led to McDonald's around the country running out of sauce and thousands of Rick and Morty fans waiting all day to be told they weren't going to get any sauce. People were driving across the border for it, standing outside all day, you name it, for this sauce, and McDonald's didn't provide enough for everyone, and it led to chaos. Viral videos took over the internet of these. Once again, a group of Rick and Morty fans had publicly made a fool of themselves, and this situation officially cemented Rick and Morty as the face of cringe culture. Justin Roiland even had to chime in himself and tell people to stop being rude to McDonald's employees. McDonald's reloaded on the sauce later on so more people could get it. Also, Rick and Morty and Adult Swim officially had nothing to do with the sauce, despite McDonald's attempt to make it seem like they were connected. But it didn't matter, the damage had been done. Now, to people who had never seen the show, Rick and Morty was known as the show with the overused pickle meme, the sexist fans, the guy who thinks he's smarter than everyone because he watches a cartoon, and thousands of adults acting like children at McDonald's because they couldn't get a sauce. Most of this took place in 2017 and 2018, and fortunately the bad stench of Rick and Morty's fanbase is starting to cool off now. The internet moves fast, and the years that have passed are more than enough time for people to start to forget these situations. Hopefully since this, a lot more people have actually given Rick and Morty a chance and see that the show itself isn't cringe at all really. It's really smart, funny, and unique. You don't need a 200 IQ to enjoy it, and the majority of the fanbase doesn't actually believe you do. The majority of the Rick and Morty fanbase actually just enjoys the show and aren't total dorks. The people who give the fanbase such a bad name were just a very, very vocal minority. But what do you think? Do you think Rick and Morty's fanbase deserves the label of being cringe that it's been given? Sound off in the comments, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to Toon Fridge for more cartoon content. Thanks for watching.